I had read that script in December of '97. And again, it was a script I said to my agent, I want to do this show. You could tell from that script how good it was. You can tell from the first scene, that scene where Will's in bed and Grace is in bed. And you think they're lovers until he makes that crack about George Clooney. Brilliant. So I did that. I did that pilot. I did 3 other pilots, I think. And then I went to Chicago to do a play. I did The Man Who Came to Dinner with John Mahoney at the Steppenwolf Theater. And when I came back, I started Will and Grace. Also, that's from my company. When I got there, Max and David had done some casting and had found Eric McCormick, but they hadn't found a Grace yet. So we had to go get Grace. And then they had to whittle down the part of Jack to 2 guys, and Sean was the best choice. And they kind of wanted Megan. Megan kept not wanting to do it, and they finally talked her into it. But Grace, we didn't have a Grace. You can't, you know, it's a little bit like Shelley Long. Without Shelley Long the first year, Cheers is dead. Cheers is just dead without somebody that good. And without Deborah, you know, I knew without a Grace, you got no show, because Will and Grace are one person. They're symbiotic. They have to have that energy. They have to have that chemistry. So we kept looking for actors and everything. And I knew about Messing, you know, and she had been in Ned and Stacy, and then she had done a 1-hour show. And I begged her agent to get her in. I said, you know, Bobby, you got to get her in. This is a really good part. So she came in, and it was obvious. It was obvious. They had this dynamic that's great. And I was just talking her into it. Thank God she agreed to it. It's just like it was on Cheers or Friends or Frasier. When you have that 4 people who respect one another, who you never have to go away from to do a joke. Anybody can do a joke on that show. You never have to write away from them. They love one another. They love the show. They love doing the show. They look forward to Tuesday nights when the audience shrieks and howls. I've never heard laughter like that on any other show. I just never have. I don't know why. Maybe the audience is younger. I don't know why. It's just the howls on that show and Will and Grace are. Maybe it's because we go places no other show has gone before. We get a little tawdry on the show. We get away with the word fart. We get away with the word vagina, and we say penis a lot. But there's a fascinating thing about the show. We say all those things, and yet it's a very innocent show. It's an incredibly innocent show. It's not mean-spirited, although Karen is, but it's not mean-spirited because you forgive her because she's got a shitty life. But there is something so innocent about those 4 people. They're non-threatening. None of them would ever own a gun, other than Karen. And they live in this world. They live in the city, but they talk a bigger game than they really are, and it's amazing. Sean Hayes, he's always got his Jack Purcells on, his shoes and his little sweater vest, because you put him in Prada, it's going to change that character, unless it's like at a formal dinner or something like that. So that's the amazing thing about that show. And I'm 20 years older than anybody there, and I have the best time. It's invigorating for me. The writing is incredible, and we literally go places I've never gone before because it's an innocent show. It's an innocent show. Plus, you have vulnerability on that show. You have huge vulnerability. Will's gay. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but that's perceived as a failing in one's life, and it's terrible. It's terrible. But there are people who think, not to get into a race issue, but there are people who feel black people, because they have black skin, have a problem. It's a terrible thing. But I think on that show, Will's drinking is his homosexuality. That's his Achilles heel in a strange kind of way. But it makes you love him. There's no greater story to tell. This is the only show I have ever done where it's been proselytation. I have never done a show that's taken a political stand. I don't like that. Norman Lear used to do that so great. I never do that. I've never been able to do that. My mind doesn't work that way. But on this show, this is maybe the most important political show I've ever done in my life. And people ask me why, and I say because when the show was first starting, I would drive my 13-year-old in carpool, and I would pick up 4 or 5 other 13, 14-year-olds. And the show had been on half a year, and they'd get in the car with me, and they'd talk to me, and they'd say, "What's on the show tonight? What's on Will and Grace?" And I say, "Oh, my God." They don't see it as a problem. They don't see Will's, this is amazing. So I have 4 14-year-olds here who won't be prejudicial when it comes to homosexuality, will be embracing and will be understanding and say, God, we're all alike deep down. So that's the amazing thing to me. And I think that's what gives the show the cachet that it has, this kind of, it doesn't apply to my proselytizing story, but this kind of deep-seated vulnerability that allows you to get away with a lot of stuff. We used to get to know too many homo jokes. And me, who, most people tell you I'm an 800-pound gorilla. I will go, the comments like that make me crazy. I just said to the network, that's what we do. That's what this show can do. That first year we did that show where Jack said faggot about 8 times. And I guess we lost a sponsor because that word kept coming up, but it was because Jack had come to Will's gym, had asked Will to join his gym, and Will didn't want to do it, and finally said it was okay. And Grace said, while Will was working out, why don't you want Jack? And Will says, because he's such a faggot, like that. And Jack overhears him. Will doesn't know, and Jack comes in the next day dressed like a straight guy, says, and does that, which is the same as the N-word used to be, but we did it to make this, and the network, they were scared, and they said, no, we said, this is what we do. This is not a threatening, this is a non-threatening instant. This is, you shouldn't be worried about this. And so the one thing I did, and in the first year of the show, was I knew how difficult homosexuality would be to Middle America. They're not, I don't think they're comfortable with us as they are in the states you fly over. They're not as comfortable with us as the states on the border. So I told Max and David, I think we should try the first year to make America believe that Will's going to recant and marry Grace. Because that's what the show is. The show is a relationship, a sexual relationship without any sex. So I said, let's try to do this. Let's not do it, because you can't do it. The show would be vitiated. And the heart and soul would be gone. But let's try to somehow do this. Let's have those scenes with Will and Grace where they talk and, and they look like a husband and wife. Let's have a kiss in the pilot, which we had a kiss in the pilot. Let's have a kiss in the final episode under a chuppah. We had a chuppah on stage where Rosario marries Jack. And, Grace says, I'd love to kiss a man under this. And Will says, so would I. But that, we do jokes that tell you it's never going to happen. But that kiss, what is that? What message does that send out? So that's what we tried to do the first year, to make sure that when people would tune into the show, they would think that this was going to happen. Once you got them in there, then they could see how funny it is. Once you saw how funny the show was, you're never going to stop seeing it, because it's really a funny show.